Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday Politics here in the West. For Remain, we have the UE Vice-Chancellor Professor Steve West and the former Lib Dem MP Stephen Williams. For Leave, William Dartmouth, a UKIP MEP, and Christina Simmonds, a campaigner from Cheltenham. Good morning. Good morning. William, the tone of this campaign has been pretty horrible at times, hasn't it?
Well, there's been far more heat than light, and the government, particularly, the government machine, has put forward this Project Fear. Just to correct Stephen on one thing, although it's true to say that the UK has a veto, it is government policy to admit Turkey, and it's Liberal Democrat policy to admit Turkey. I think it's a reckless policy, and I wish that that wasn't the policy. But the fact of the matter is, it is the policy, and in addition, Turkey is receiving about 900 million euros a year in pre-accession funding as a candidate country. So it's a legitimate concern to raise, and to poo-poo it in the way they have is not really very helpful.
To suggest they might be here tomorrow, when in fact the process is years away.
Visa-free the next 6 months. Visa-free the next 6 months.
William,
but I mean, there's more heat. There's been more heat.
William,
let
me just read. You said that this Leave EU sent a tweet which they deleted after the Orlando shooting. It says, "Act now before we see an Orlando-style tragedy here before too long." I mean, can you associate yourself with that sort of stuff?
Well, I mean, clearly that's absolutely absurd. I have no contact with Leave EU, and I know nothing about it. What I'd much prefer to discuss is just to point out that Australian wine is commonly on sale here. Chilean wine is on sale, and a country can have full access to the single market without being a member of the European Union.
I didn't ask you.
No, but that is what we should be talking about.
About wine?
We should also
about wine.
Well, it is commonly said. It is commonly said.
Okay.
It is commonly said that a country needs to be in the European Union to have access to the single market, and it just isn't true.
Okay.
And that is the sort of stuff we should be looking at trade statistics. That's what we should be looking at.
Okay. Christina, you're a business consultant, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And you've been out for years.
Yes, I have. I think that's probably true to say, because my concern is, I agree with what William said, I've agreed with what Steve said. There is too much angst, far more heat than light. And I think it's a really simple decision we all have to make. It's who is going to be answerable to us as the electorate following our decision to join further into Europe, because it will be further into Europe, or to take back control of our own country.
OK, let me just put a general question out there to everybody. Is concern over wine or banana regulations or whatever it is that comes from the EU big enough to take a risk? Are there really fundamental principles at stake?
It's absolutely irrelevant, in my view. This is about building futures, this is about providing opportunity, and it's also about building a world that understands itself and can create communities that are coherent. Being part of the EU is an important part of what we're trying to create for not just this generation, but for future generations.
Let me let you come back to this, William. He's saying it's not worth a candle, really. Why are you getting so hot?
Well, I'm certainly not getting hot. I'm actually remarkably cool. I'd like to put it around the other way. What I think the real issue is: do we want to continue to be an international, outward-looking country, or do we want to be subsumed as a province in a protectionist European superstate? A protectionist European superstate whose economic performance is absolutely dire. Now, you're talking about young people. Youth unemployment in this country is about 13.7%. Too high. It should be lower. But youth unemployment in Spain is about 40%. Youth unemployment in southern Italy is about coming up to 50%. And the fact of the matter is that the European Union project isn't working, and we should not be sucked into it, and we should be what we've always been, an international outward-looking country. That's what the issue is.
Christina.
I would certainly agree we need to be more outward-looking. We have a Commonwealth which we've largely ignored over the last 40 years. There's a huge growth in the Commonwealth countries, in their economies. We are not seeing that in Europe.
But the most recent trade agreement that was signed off only last week by the European Union was with South Africa and all the African nations around it. So the European Union at the moment negotiates trade agreements with the rest of the world on our behalf, but negotiates from a position of strength. As the world's largest single market, 500 million people, we are stronger than the United States, the world's second largest single market on that basis. So by pooling our sovereignty with our fellow European neighbours, we are much stronger on the world stage and can be outward looking.
OK, we'll come back to this in just a moment or two, but first we heard from the Lib Dem leader earlier meeting Remain activists. Now Leave campaigners are out in some force too, and how better to sell the message than at a car boot sale. Robin Markwell is in Gloucester for us this morning. Robin, have you picked up any bargains there?
Well, not yet, David, no, but it is a real Aladdin's cave here. Plenty on offer. They've got sort of vintage tools and children's toys, leather belts and antique lampshades. But they're also selling something else today. That is political change. We had Stronger In at this car boot sale last weekend. This weekend, very much the turn of the independence movement. Vote Leave here. UKIP have a stall just next door. They've been playing patriotic music on the speakers. You can see the British Bulldog there as well. Let's just see if we can have a quick word with Stuart Love, who's been running this stall here. Stuart, what sort of things have you been shifting?
Well, we've been moving an awful lot of badges, as you can see from these lads here. Car stickers, posters, a lot of information has been going out. Tremendous support, really, really good support today.
And just over here we have Richard Ford, who's also been running the stall, running the campaign in Gloucester. Richard, what's your take on the mood on the streets around here?
Well, the mood on the streets in Gloucester is definitely for Leave, there's no question about it. We've got the Brexit shop in Gloucester now in St Aldgate Street. People coming in from all over the county and further afield wanting boards, balloons, stickers, every kind of promotional material. So Gloucester is for Leave, definitely.
Well, it isn't unanimous, is it? Because the Stronger In campaign, those supporters wouldn't necessarily come to a store like this. I mean, I spoke to a chap who was very worried about the future for Nissan and Honda, foreign firms with bases in the UK here. Isn't it just the case that supporters of Remain simply don't want to come up and take a free balloon? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm sure that's true, but, you know, the people we're seeing are very much for Leave. I've seen hardly any activity for Remain in Gloucester. It's been very low visibility, so it's a very shy campaign if that's what they're doing. Of course there are people for Remain, there's no question there are. But, you know, people's worries, you know, Honda's not going to close down and leave this country just because we leave the European Union. That's the biggest load of nonsense that's come up.
What have been the core issues for you then? What are people saying to you as they come to this stand?
Well, they're saying they're worried about their children and their grandchildren, and that's why they want to leave. They're worried about a future for their kids in this country. They want jobs, they want houses, you know, they want their children to have the life they had. They want a national health service, and they're worried about the pressures on every kind of public service, and they want a life for their children, the life they had, and they don't think their children are going to get it, and that's why you'll find. But we haven't just got older people, we've got younger people as well. Every age, every type of person, men and women, everybody is concerned about the future of our country within the European Union. And the Swiss even yesterday, as each day goes by, it changes.
You were joking on the microphone on the tannoy here that you'd run out of hot air earlier.
Absolutely.
In which to blow up your green balloons here.
Absolutely, the balloons have gone so quickly.
Would you accept, though, that there's been plenty of hot air from both sides in this?
I absolutely do. It's been quite a negative campaign. There has been hot air. It's very, very disappointing. This is the biggest, most important thing to happen in our country, certainly in my lifetime. It's more important than the general election. There's been lots of hot air. We've now got more helium. We did actually ring number 10 Downing Street, ask Mr Cameron for some hot air, but he couldn't provide it, so we've had some brought in from Gloucester this morning.
A cheeky note to finish on. Thank you very much
Thank
indeed,
you.
Richard Ford. That's all from us here at Gloucester Car Boot Sale. David, if there's any question, the campaign is definitely now well underway again.
OK, Robin, thank you very much indeed. Bring me back something nice. Christina, you work in HR, don't you?
I do, very much so.
Do you accept that without a stream of foreign workers, then lots of business would be stuffed, quite frankly?
I think that one of the things that we do need is to have the right skills here, the right skills balance. And I think that a managed system of immigration, such as the Australian points system, would allow us to choose those people we need to come to this country. And certainly we wouldn't be throwing out doctors, nurses, teachers, others who are here already.
But even if there was zero immigration from the rest of the EU, there's still 180-odd thousand coming from outside of the EU. So what difference is it going to make, unless you're really going to slash those numbers? William, let's have you.
Well, I mean, that is actually a matter which you've actually had to ask a member of the government, but the very simple point, which I've always found astonishing in this discussion, is this. If there are labour shortages, they can be filled in a very specific way. Years and years ago, I qualified as a chartered accountant, and I worked for 2 years in the Middle East as a chartered accountant on a 2-year contract because there was a shortage of accountants. When my contract was over, I had to come home unless it had been renewed. Now, we can perfectly well fill shortages, skilled or unskilled, without without having complete freedom of movement for 450 million people.
Okay,
that's the point.
It's not about shortages, it's about opportunities, isn't it? It's that people from Bristol and the West Country have the opportunity to go and work in Paris, Warsaw, Lisbon, wherever it is. It's a two-way thing.
Not many go to Romania.
Not many go to Romania.
No, but
Steve,
a lot go to France and Germany.
Wear your Chamber of Commerce hat now. Tell me why he's wrong.
Well, what we're seeing through surveys that we've just recently completed in the southwest, and I'll keep it specific to the southwest and this particular region, over 700 responses, 63% were firmly, and these are big companies, small companies, all sorts of difference in terms of their style. They're saying they need to remain in, they need to remain competitive, and also to get skilled workforce. And every survey identifies skills shortages, no matter what industry we're talking about.
Well, how does that work with the weight of immigration control falling on non-EU immigration? So Indian engineers, cancer surgeons and the like find it very difficult to come here, whereas completely unskilled people from Romania, Slovenia, Slovakia and the rest are able to come here as of right.
Let Stephen Williams field that one.
People from the rest of the European Union can only come here if they've actually got a job to
That's
fill.
Completely untrue. There's 77,000 people who came on the off chance. It's just untrue. Sir, I'm afraid.
It's a great myth to say that people from the European Union come here, steal jobs, get benefits, and the single market and freedom of movement of people doesn't work that way. You have to be searching for work and to have a job when you get here.
So you can't come to this country without having a job lined up?
No, or within 6 months have to find one. You have to support yourself in that period. There's no recourse to the state at all. But the Bristol economy is strengthened by this. If you go to the Airbus industries on the northern fringe of Bristol, or indeed to the universities, the research labs at our three great universities in this area, a lot of those programs would collapse without skilled engineers and scientists from all over the most prosperous places in Europe.
Stephen says he's never had a constituent come up to him and saying that, sorry, there's too many French people in Bristol or there's too many Germans in the West Country.
I agree with you entirely. I've never had anybody talk to me about there are too many people of a particular kind.
So what's the problem
The people that are, the numbers of people coming here are simply overwhelming. And we actually do need to be able to determine those people that come here, those people who have the right to stay here, rather than have it dictated to us en bloc by the European Union.
It's interesting though, but I was in further down in the southwest last weekend, and a lot of leave posters up there in places where there is almost no immigration. Can you explain that?
Easily, people want to leave for a variety of reasons. It's not just immigration. Polarising it around immigration is quite wrong. Okay. It's a lot of things. The things that William talks about in terms of trade and our ability to trade with the rest of the world. But primarily, it's about having politicians we can kick out if we don't actually like what they're doing.
We can vote out William Dartmouth for a start. He's an elected
we obviously could vote you out too.
And I was.
However,
you don't need to tell him that.
The point is that we can't change the dynamic in this country without having control of who our politicians are, and that 70% of our laws are not made in Brussels.
I'm sorry, I haven't been a member of the European Parliament, but I was a member of the Westminster Parliament for 10 years. Most of the laws in Great Britain are made by elected members of Parliament and unelected members of the House of Lords. So our country isn't that democratic either. It's a great myth to say that laws are imposed on us. I was a member of the Council of Ministers as well.
The Ports Directive for a start,
yes.
which threatens 9,000 jobs in Bristol
So
ports.
the European Parliament, which you're elected to, sir, and the Council of Ministers, who are national government representatives, they are the people who make the laws across the European Union.
Well, sadly, we have less than 10% of MEPs, which means that we can't block anything. But just to get back to what you said earlier on, you were rather implying that out of the 620,000 people who came to the UK last year, they were all aeronautical engineers. Well, no, please, that's really not the case.
Of course they're not, and
but that was the implication.
Many of them are not necessarily at that level of professional skill. A lot of them are actually running and supporting people in care homes, in hospitals. They're keeping our universities going in terms of cleaners. There's a whole raft of people out there who are doing a fantastic job that actually we cannot find to employ any other way.
All right.
Yeah, but you don't have to have the doors completely open to fill it up.
Folks, we have to leave it there because that's it from the West this week. Who knows who will be on our programme next Sunday? That will be for you to decide on Thursday. My thanks to my guests. Let's return to Andrew in London. Bye-bye.